The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is episode 30 of the Finding Florida podcast on the Florida Podcast Network. Emille visits Universal and some Florida games.
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, City Girl Jemmy and Country Boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
On this episode, popular travel blogger Emille Crawford tells us all about her visit to Universal Studios on opening day with all the COVID changes. Now, in past episodes, Glenn and I have proven over and over and over and over and over again that we are quite adventurous. But that's something I wouldn't do, be there on opening day. And she did, and she's going to tell us all about it. And then we're going to catch up on some Florida travel news. I can't wait to see what else is opening and how quickly we can get all on board. And then we're going to play some Florida games, which I understand Glenn has some things racked up that I am completely unaware about. So we're going to see what happens. Listen in.
I would dot the West with little hometowns and fill the East with excitement. Right in the middle, I put a great big playground. I would surround it all with water from coast to coast to coast, and I'd give it a name, Florida.
Well, our show has always been about finding local gems and traveling local, but multiple surveys are showing, Jemmy, this year that 70% of people saying they're going to travel local this year, and it's going to be road trips and not flying. They're not going to fly international.
I can't imagine what has influenced that decision-making.
Get this, Airbnb is up 40% because people are also not wanting to stay in hotels. And if you think about it, that kind of makes sense because, yes, you're coming into a house that somebody else might have been in before, but you're not getting in elevators with crowded elevators, touching buttons and all that stuff.
That's true. And then once you're there, you can go through a full-on disinfecting shenanigans on your own, like bring your own spray, do your thing, and then you're cool for the duration of your stay. Whereas in a hotel, like I get it, like, even, the cleaning service was just there to clean, but they're still in and out. And, so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why they actually did a big survey they're showing that their customers are only booking within 200 miles of home. So a day's drive. Basically.
Makes a lot of sense.
So I wanted to ask you, right now, if you had to, would you fly?
No. Well, okay, so define have to. Is it like if you don't fly, then this wonderful Pulitzer Nobel Peace Prize winning person doesn't get the liver that they need to survive? Then yeah, I'll take the flight. But that's pretty much the only reason. And it's funny because I always, when I first heard about like Airbnb being a thing and like, okay, this whole going into strangers stuff is it's out of control. Like, first of all, now we're supposed to be on board with getting into strangers' cars. Now we're supposed to be on board with going into strangers' houses. So weird to me. But now, considering what's going on with the pandemic, I would much rather be in an Airbnb than in a hotel for all the aforementioned reasons. But when it comes to flying, no, I don't think I can be on board with that. At least not anytime soon. Not quite yet. We saw your other co-host Jamie flying around the other day, and she's braver than I am. Too,
she already thinks she's had it. They think their whole family, because her husband's a pilot.
I was going to say her husband was flying the plane.
They're about 2.5 months ago, they both got really sick. So they both kind of think they had it. And, we have to clarify, too, that Jemmy and I both have underlying medical conditions that we really shouldn't get this virus.
No.
Which is why we kind of have to be extra careful. Probably more than most people.
Extra careful to the point of ridiculous paranoia. But yes, extra careful.
That's it. Now, we did start getting takeout for the first time. We hadn't even done that. But to be honest with you, after 3 months of cooking and doing the damn dishes that happen every day,
I know.
When you have to cook
I am on a first name basis with some of the people running the takeout counters at some of my favorite restaurants. There's Mike at Payway. There's Sheila over at Chipotle. Like, I'm on a first name basis with these people by now. And delivery is my best friend. Instacart, gosh, I love it.
And you live so close to a bunch of stuff, it probably doesn't take them long.
No, it doesn't. It's practically that my doorbell is being rung when I hang up the phone. It's phenomenal. I love it. No complaints here. None whatsoever.
Well, if you really want to find out about local, that's what we've been doing on this show. So if you're a new listener, go take a listen to all 30 past episodes. We have really searched out and found the local cool things to do in towns all over the state. So go back and take a listen. It doesn't matter if we did it 2 years ago. It's still there. It's probably still open, although I checked that first. And, go have
Don't rely on us.
Do some unique local things. Because that's what we were all about on this show. And I see the way I read all of this now is we were trendsetters before it was cool.
That's right. We certainly were. Both in a lot of ways, from wearing masks, from being overly cautious, the whole 9 yards. We were trendsetters. That's right. So I understand a lot of things have reopened, including Universal. I know we're going to be talking later on to our guest about all of that, what her experience was like on opening day. But there's also word that the very first place, speaking of past adventures, the very first place we hit on this show, Disney, is also going to be reopening. So do you have any details on that?
Yeah, most of Disney, some of the hotels are reopening in the next couple of weeks, and then most of Disney parks will be reopening in the middle of July. So, getting in is going to be difficult at first. They're basically saying they're going to limit attendance to 20 or 30%, which is pretty much what Universal did. You're going to need a ticket ahead of time. You can stay on property, but that's not even going to guarantee you a ticket. So if you want to go to Disney anytime this summer, we'll talk about that and what that's going to be like. But if you want to go to Disney anytime this summer, you have to get on and get a ticket. However, the ticket reservation system is only supposed to come online in the next couple of days. So you have to go get a ticket for that day, buy it in advance, and they're only allowing so many tickets. And even if you're on property, you're not guaranteed to get a ticket, which is unusual because usually if you stayed on Disney property, you got all kinds of special treatment, right?
Right.
But they can't do that because then it would only be on property people. They wouldn't get anybody in. Also, this is another thing. My wife and I had, one of the reasons we moved to Florida was to go to Disney all the time. So we had annual passes for 4 or 5 years. And they're even saying annual pass holders are not guaranteed to get a ticket. It's first come, first serve.
What?
So it's going to be hard to get tickets at first, I think. And this is the other clinker, is that if you're entering the state of Florida from the New York tri-state area, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York, you're supposed to isolate for a period of 14 days from the time of getting into Florida. Well, Disney is going to kind of enforce that.
Yeah,
and they
good
want to see
luck
proof.
with that. I'm sorry.
I know a lot of people think they should have to, quarantine anyway. So they're going to have to be. You're going to kind of have to prove that you've been here for 14 days, and they do not want you coming to a Disney World resort until you've done your 14 days.
How in the world are they going to regulate that? That is going to be interesting to see. I mean, I know you can check IDs and all of that, but I would not want to be. You talk about being on the front lines of things. Like we've talked about doctors, nurses. I would not want to be on the front lines of the Disney parks right now. No, thank you. Oh, my goodness gracious. But apparently a lot of parks around the state are trying to reopen similarly with these kind of protocols. I remember when you first were talking about how this was going to work. I remember how curious I was as to the crowd control. But then once you mention that, you buy your ticket in advance and basically sign up for a particular day to go, then that makes a lot of more sense to me.
And Emille is going to talk a little bit about how they're doing that too once you get in the park. So we'll talk to her a little bit more about that later on to find out what that's really like. One of the other things with Disney is there's no parades, no shows, no fireworks. So this is pretty much go ride rides, eat what you can, and
I wonder
go home.
If they're still going to have the characters walking around, giving out hugs and taking and all that.
Very
stuff.
Limited, and you will not hug them. You will not be able to get close.
Interesting. To them. Oh my goodness.
Which the characters in the summertime are probably really happy about.
Right? God.
So something fun that is happening here, and I believe we might have just briefly mentioned this, but they got approval now, is they're looking at building the largest drive-in theater in the world here in Florida.
That sounds amazing. I love it. Keep going.
The theaters in Florida, we have one right here in Ocala. It's one of the oldest drive-ins in the country.
Yeah, we have
still
one
operating.
here too.
It has been operating, and they've been showing movies this whole time, and apparently they've been packed. But they got together with the Riley Arts Center, which is our local art, theater place that we go to shows and see concerts and stuff. They've been closed, so the Riley Arts Center got together with the drive-in movie theater, and they're putting on concerts at the drive-in movie theater. So if you had tickets to come to the Riley Arts Center, like Wynonna Judd is coming in a couple of weeks, she's still going to come in and do the concert, but they're going to do it on stage at the drive-in movies. And if you had tickets for the Riley Arts Center, you can come to the drive-in and see Wynonna Judd or her other concert they have coming up.
It's a brilliant idea.
Kind of cool.
It's really a brilliant idea because I was thinking the other day, actually, it's funny. I had this passing thought. This was a couple weeks ago. And I turned to my son and said, what? Oh, I was about to say, why don't we go to the movies today? Wah, wah. And I'm like, would it be so nice to be able to just go to the movies again? But, there are the drive-in theaters. And of course, my mind then, because I'm always a Debbie Downer, goes to, okay, well, what about the bathrooms and the concession stands? But the fact that you can go drive in, sit in your car, socially distant from everybody else it's a perfect idea. So I'm really glad to see that more people are taking advantage of the drive-in theaters and stuff. I'm wondering if there are going to be more and more restaurants that are going to be doing like a drive-in concept if they can. That would be cool to see too, but I'll start with the drive-in theaters.
Eustis is north of Orlando, south of us. So it's kind of between Ocala and Orlando. They're talking about doing it. It's going to be in a big circle. And what they're talking about doing is 5 screens. So when you pull in, you'll just park facing your screen and everybody will be facing different directions, pointing out of the circle. And the projection's going to come from a lighthouse that's built in the middle. And that's going to have all the projection coming out of that lighthouse to all 5 screens.
Huh.
And they're talking about obviously having a restaurant and all of that they will deliver to your car. And they're also talking about in the future putting in camping facilities and making this a resort.
Because I'm curious, like they have to have plans for multiple uses purposes, right? Because, hopefully the pandemic isn't something that lasts forever. We get a vaccine eventually. Good God.
Hopefully.
So they're making a huge investment in designing this property and making a particular use. I'd hope that they're planning out ways of making it multiple use. And so I guess a resort makes sense. Curious.
And Eustis is not exactly, a metropolitan area. It's pretty small. So it has to be a destination. It's not something like it's not in the middle of Orlando, although you can get there from Orlando, but you know how traffic is. So
right.
It's not something that tourists are necessarily going to do. This is definitely for locals. But I can see if they put camping and all of that stuff in, then it becomes a destination. Let's just drive an hour and go do this.
Cool.
They said they're going to show first-run movies, classics, and indie movies, because with 5 screens, they can show a little bit of everything. So anyway, that was one of the really cool things, and that got approved. The town council approved it, and it looks like construction's going to begin. So
very cool.
It'll be a while, though. The pandemic's probably going to be over by the time they're open.
Just in time for the vaccine.
That's right. Well, coming up, we do have we're thrilled to have with us a popular travel blogger, writer, musician, mom, and true theme park nerd. You might know her as Emille Enchanted or Emille Crawford. She wrote a post for Inside the Magic, one of my favorite blogs, on her adventures braving the new world by visiting Universal Studios the first day they reopened. And we'll hear from her coming up next. So, Emille, you braved the opening day of Universal, went out there with your mask on, cute mask, by the way. You look very good
Thank you.
in your mask.
Thanks.
So, before we get into your adventures out on day one and what the parks are like right now, give us a quick Reader's Digest version of what Universal has put in place as far as precautions.
So, they're following all the guidelines that are being put in place by the Florida Reopen Task Force, in addition to CDC, sanitizer stations throughout the park. There are actually team members with, handheld pumps before you ride it, before the attraction. Everyone gets a little pump and you get to sanitize your hands right before you board. There's a lot of social distancing, which, about it in a little bit, but that's difficult in a theme park. It truly is a massive challenge because theme parks are just places where there's crowds. There's just no way around it. Guest capacity type stuff. From what I understand, Universal is not releasing official numbers. I know like Disney had mentioned they're trying to stay under, I believe it was 30%, if I'm telling you correctly. I have to look. But Universal hasn't officially released. The first day that I went was actually an annual pass holder preview, but it was the first official day where it wasn't like a special media thing or a team member thing. It was actually like, guests that were coming in. And, it felt crowded to me from the expectations that I had of something that was like supposed to be a guest capacity in terms of like controlling that. But we'll get into that in a little bit. They're even social distancing your cars, which was interesting when I pulled into the parking lot. It was. You drive these yellow cones in between each parking space, which was nice though. That's one of those things that they really are making. They're making an effort, 100%. As soon as you walk in, there's signs everywhere. There's team members encouraging people with, there's announcements going on throughout that you can hear, just letting people know. On the website, they release the video so that when you're preparing to go. So, they're definitely doing what they're supposed to do to keep people safe. I know that's their priority, the guests and the team members safe, and they're really making an effort.
So your temperature screenings when you went in, was that a long line? How fast does that go?
So I was there for the annual pass holder preview. What they did was they sent out an email to APs and they asked people to reserve an entry time so that they could spread out that influx. Because, rope drop can be so chaotic and, everybody wanted to be there. So in order to prevent that, they did these time slots and I picked a sort of early one, but not the earliest. So I got to the park around, I don't know, like 8:45 in the morning and my entrance was 9:30, if I remember correctly, somewhere around that. There were lines. They weren't insane and they moved super quickly. And where the lines were, there were social distancing markers throughout the floor everywhere. And people, for the most part, were following that. So I didn't have a hard time, but I did hear some people that like showed up a little later and it was apparently a lot worse. But my personal experience with the temp screening, and I've been back since, and it's been great. So they're definitely, it moves very quickly. Like they just scan you and boom, there you go. And I didn't see anybody get stopped and everybody was wearing their mask. So they're being, that stuff is working great for them, I think.
Good. Well,
yeah.
Of course, the one thing that's been, if you read any posts and the comments underneath them and anybody's posts right now on Facebook or anywhere is the dreaded masks. I cannot believe the 90% of people who say, if I have to wear a mask, I'm not going. Well, then you're not going because are they enforcing that?
They are 200% enforcing it. Matter of fact, I took mine off for a second because, guys, can I just say, like, mask breath is a thing? Like, if you just had lunch, mask breath is a thing. So, like, pack some Tic Tacs or some gum, which is gross. So, like, I took it off. I was walking into an attraction. I can't remember which one. And I took it off just to, like, spit out my gum. And I got yelled at. You must be wearing the mask. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Like, not yelled at, but they called me out. And I was like, wow, they're on it. They are on it. So don't be thinking. Now, there are opportunities to take them off because in Florida heat, I'm sure they're aware that people need that break. So when you are sitting down dining, not when you walk into the restaurant, you still got to keep it on. When you're sitting down with your food, you can remove it. If you happen to have a drink and are walking around, I almost don't want to say that just because people might use it as an excuse. But, if you have a drink in your hand and you're sipping, then obviously you're not wearing your mask. But they will still say, like, please try to keep it on all the time. And then they have the U rest areas. They have them in both parks and they have them in City Walk where there's social distancing tables and just, it's kind of a little bit of an open area, which let me tell you, I took advantage of 100%, because I needed that break. And you can remove your mask there and basically stay at your party and 6 feet away from other guests. So that's super nice.
So it's like a smoking area for mask removal.
Basically, that's a good. So like, my recommendation, get you some Starbucks, get you one of those big old pink donuts from Lards and go take a break. And it was great. Yeah.
So, explain the virtual lines. And this is the place you had the problem. And I'd be interested to see if it got any better after you went back. So they have an app. And now kind of explain how a virtual line works for some of the rides.
Correct. So again, with social distancing inside of an attraction, it's challenging. So to limit that amount of influx of guests, they're doing virtual queues, virtual lines. You have the opportunity to basically use your phone to get in line, sort of. So right now, or last I checked, they were doing 6 rides that had this. It was obviously Hagrid's, Forbidden Journey, the one inside the castle. Rip Ride Rocket had it. I'd have to look at my list. I don't have it in front of me. But anyway, 6 attractions. Now, the tricky thing about this, for example, with Hagrid's, because it's the most popular attraction at Islands of Adventure and really Universal in general, those were going so fast. Like for me, the very first day, my AP preview, I never was able to ride it. I didn't get to ride it. So that's one of the negatives, I think, for people that are planning a visit. If you don't get that virtual line reservation, you don't get to ride. There is no standby.
So super
So
restricted.
that was one of the
Crowd capacity doesn't necessarily automatically translate into jumping on every ride whenever you want.
No, and definitely not for something like Hagrid's. Now, however, when I did go back on Sunday, so AP preview was Wednesday. I went back on Sunday. There was sort of bad weather that day, and so the crowds were considerably lower than that first day. And I was able to do tons more, it was delightful. Like everybody enjoys the theme parks when they're dead. So, that is one of those silver lining things about this current climate. People that are unwilling to wear the mask, they don't want to go, they're afraid, whatever. Then, for people like us that are crazy, we get to enjoy it with those dead crowds. But I did get to experience Hagrid's that second visit. But the first one, and I kept hearing rumors they're going to be dropping more availability. I checked throughout the whole day. I basically killed my battery in the process. And they were just having a lot of issues with the app. Some of them have been resolved. Like on the first day, I had issues with the app because they're encouraging mobile order as well. And we can talk about that later. But so you get in the app, and if anybody is looking at it right now, there is a menu on the left-hand side. I'm looking at it to just kind of give you an idea. They call it the hamburger menu. It's the little 3 bars.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the easiest way to find the virtual line. So like about halfway down your phone, you're going to see virtual line experience. You can click on that. And if right now, the wait time, like right now, it's only showing me 3 attractions. Granted, I'm not there. So maybe if I was closer, because it is geotagged. That's another thing. So you can only reserve these if you're in close proximity to the theme park. I think the furthest out is if you're staying at, say, Endless Summer, the resort that's a little bit off property, but it's still considered property, and City Walk. And pro tip, if you're there, if you really want to do Hagrid's, like you want to be at City Walk, you want to be at your hotel 6 o'clock in the morning, because you don't have to be scanned in. And again, all this can be sort of fluid. Universal could change your mind and change this, but as of my last visit, you can actually make those reservations prior to getting there. And
okay,
so that's how we were able to get
You want to make your reservations early when you get there for whatever. Do they allow you to make more than one at a time? Can you make a whole bunch?
Yes. So say that you're in a party, like you have a group of people, you can make up to 8 reservations for up to 8 guests, I should say. So if I was able to score a time for Hagrid's, it asked me how many people in your party, and you can pick up to 8, which was great.
Okay.
I have a friend that went with her whole family. She has a bunch of kids, and so that worked out beautifully for her. And you can also reserve 2 virtual queue spots at a time. Hagrid's, and then you can pick, the Jimmy Fallon ride or whatever. So 2 at a time.
How do they do the other rides and stay socially distant in those lines? Because the lines zigzag back and forth. You're beside people the whole time.
Correct. And so that was something that I experienced the first time I went. I was like, okay, I understand that there's 6 feet in front of me and behind me, but there's somebody right next to me, right, because of the way they rope around. They have actually fixed that a little bit. So you feel like the line is super duper long, but it actually isn't, and it moves quicker. So they have roped off those sections so that you're not. They did fix that when I returned on Sunday, but the first day most definitely was an issue. I'm like, okay, this is obviously a hiccup that they need to iron out, but they did. So go Universal. They did fix that.
So I have to ask you about the rides because do you have to leave your mask on the ride? Because I'm not sure that the masks I have would stay on some of their wicked roller coasters. I'm not
You know, I wondered the same thing. You do 100% have to keep it on. You do. I wore it on Hulk and it stayed on, and mine, you know, it was just a cloth mask. It did stay on. I don't know, maybe some G-force magic was happening there. On Rip Ride Rocket though, it like fell off my nose. Like it was, but that thing is crazy. So, yeah. I mean, they're both kind of crazy rides, but it definitely did not stay where it was supposed to stay. But I mean, I figure you're far enough away from humanity in general and you're moving so fast that it's okay. And it didn't fly off, which was probably people's biggest concern, is it's going to fly off. I will say though, funny story. We got on, oh man, brain fart. What is it called? The train station, King's Crossing.
Oh, okay, King's Crossing. Yep.
Okay, so we got it on there, and of course, again, silver lining. Everybody gets their own cabin for the party. Usually, they shove you in there with a bunch of strangers because of the pandemic. You can't be so close to people, so everybody gets their own cabin, which is great. Nice. But obviously, everybody's going to take that as an excuse to take off their masks. Well, they're watching, folks, so don't do it because they will get yelled at. As soon as they started moving, they made an announcement, please keep your masks on, blah, blah, blah. Your attraction, you can't take it off. So they're watching. If you want to take them off, go to the designated rest areas. Don't do it elsewhere because you will be told. They're definitely on it. Yeah, they are. Even with kids, because the age is 2 and up. So, I'm a mom, and to me, that would be challenging because I have a 6-year-old and she hates the mask. She literally, Disney is her favorite place on earth. And I offered Disney Springs recently, and she's like, but Mom, do I have to wear the mask? And she declined. She's like, I just don't want to do it. It's too hot.
Jemmy has what, 7 or 8 now? I can't remember. He keeps getting older. Jemmy, would he wear the mask the whole time?
No. It's gonna really restrict the length of our. Yeah, it's and I honestly me wearing a mask is difficult just because. So Glenn mentioned that we have underlying issues. Mine is one of my lungs is damaged. So for me, my breathing capacity is already compromised. For me to have a mask on, is tricky.
In Florida humidity,
I know. So going to the store, half hour, 20 minutes, half hour into the store, I'm already all right, I can't do it. So I don't know if I could.
I feel you.
Yeah, if I could be out in a park with a mask on, if I don't know if I'd be able to breathe effectively enough. But with my child, honestly, I might be out before he is. For me, having to yell at him, I might lose my breath. It's not gonna happen.
Right?
It's not gonna work.
They'll do it for you. I mean, I didn't see them getting after kids, but they would probably just say it in general. And then the parents would be like, "Oh crap," kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I said this from the beginning, and I got some hate because I posted on a couple of the posts, probably a couple of yours, and I just said, "Look, this is awesome." They know that there's a certain amount of people that are just saying, "Screw it, I'm not going to go if you have to wear a mask," and they're counting on that. That's part. They don't want you to go, that many people to go. That's kind of a natural selection thing, right? Where
sure.
Then they don't have to turn as many people away. Because they keep the demand down. So
yeah. Right.
Okay.
For sure.
Before we run out of time, I have 2 more questions for you. How was dining with your mask on? No, I know you can take your mask off. How was? Did you wait in line, or do you order that and then pick it up on the app?
So again, first day dining was there were 2 most frustrating things were dining in the lockers, and I forgot to mention the lockers earlier, but we can talk about that before we wrap up. But dining, so. When we showed up, we went to the restaurant that was inside Jurassic Park area called Burger Digs. And there was just so much mixed information. And I felt so bad for the team members because you could tell that even they were frazzled. It was almost like things were changing so quickly, trying to adjust to the crowd, to the thing, to the newness. So it took about 2 hours between waiting so you have to wait to get seated. They didn't want you to order until you got seated. And then we had issues with that app ordering. So then we had to wait to go to the cash register when there was nobody there, and then wait some more because nobody could be around you. So that was super, super challenging. Again, when I went back on Sunday, oh my gosh, completely different experience. The crowds were lower. We didn't have to wait at all to get a table. We're able to get seated immediately. I was able to order from my app, no problems. Food came out immediately. Food came out correctly. If you're an annual pass holder, just note though that the app is not allowing discounts. And so if you have an AP and you want that discount, just speak to a team member. What they do is they refund your payment method. You know, they'll take your card from you or whatever, and they will adjust it, but you have to ask for it because the app doesn't allow it just yet. Team members did tell me that they are working on that, so that's a bonus. So like I said, you know, really, this is new to everybody, and I really think that they're doing their best adjusting to all this newness and the unexpected things that are popping up from not knowing how people are going to react to this, not knowing how, you know, the issues that might come up. But the thing that I wanted to bring up, because this is another time suck, the lockers. Like seriously, pro tip, if you can pack as lightly as possible when you go to Universal, do it. I mean, I know we need our phones, so that almost makes it impossible. Maybe like bring one of those 3-prong fanny pack things that they allow in most rides. Not all of them, because there's several that have those scanners where if you have a phone, you have to go out and lock your phone up. You don't want phones flying off the pole.
Let's kind of explain that. If you haven't been to Universal in a while, they have lockers at some of the rides, and you have to put all your stuff in them, and it's a bottleneck on a good day.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It sucks.
Yeah, it's unfun for sure. But I mean, I get it. And I mean, they're free. So, well, the small ones are free. If you have a big old backpack, you're going to have to pay a little bit. But so the problem is you have to do a line to get your stuff, which is slow moving, because so each wall locker has like a wall unit, and there's only one person allowed in that wall unit at a time, because again, the space is small. And so it's a very, very slow moving. And so then when you get off the ride, guess what? You got to do the line again.
Another half an hour.
Yes. And so, and there's no way that they can fix that. I don't think that's going to change. I think that's actually going to get worse as people get more comfortable attending the theme parks. But so again, the best that I can recommend is try to pack as light as you can, but there are still going to be some attractions that if you have your phone, which you need your phone for the virtual queue, so nobody's going to go to the park without a phone, you're still going to have to put it up. So there's just no avoiding it, really.
So I think a lot of people are just going to wait till next year, and that's what they're counting on. They're really counting on that. Plus, I wear the mask, and Jemmy wears the mask. You know, I have a beard, and I'm finding that I might shave that sucker off for the first time in 20 years, because if I have to wear the mask for any period of time, it's hot.
I bet. Ooh, I bet.
In Florida. And I don't think I would go to the park right now, just because, you know, and I don't really mind wearing the mask, but we never went to the parks in July and August anyway, because it's so damn hot. That's the way the line.
So stinking hot.
On a good day. So,
right. Yeah. Oh, gosh. True.
All right. So I'm going to ask you, the 2 times you were there, overall, did you have fun?
You know what I did? I'm a theme park junkie, and it's so nice to be back. I am a social person. I miss humans. I miss the sunshine. And even with all the hiccups, you're still at a theme park. You're still at a place that is so insanely fun. You know, you're still able to get that butterbeer. You're still able to get that massive donut. And if you can put up with the stuff, if you feel comfortable enough with your health too, because it is a risk, you know, it is a risk. But the way I see it, you're taking a risk going to the grocery store anyway. So just be safe. But if you really miss it, I think that this is actually a very unique time to go to the theme parks. I don't know that we're going to see these crowds again, especially once things normalize, which, knock on wood, hopefully happens soon enough, because everybody wants things to go back to normal. So, no, but I did. I really, really did. Like I'm already plotting to go back. I'm just looking to see if I can find a mask that's less dreadful. I don't know. Like the thing is, like, I'm like, can this tool work? Can it be sheared? I'm sure that the answer to that is
should be wearing nylons over her face. So
do these stockings work? What's happening? Right.
Well,
yeah.
You can find all of your writing over at Inside the Magic. I highly recommend it to anybody wants to follow please. They do 100 articles a day. They follow every little thing that comes up and is happening right now. I mean, you guys had a couple of months where it was like, what are we going to write about? But now that's not a problem, because first of all, Disney's making announcements every 10 minutes about what's going on.
Last night was bananas. Oh my gosh. Yes. My phone and my computer were exploding because Disneyland just announced that they're reopening. So exciting times.
About 100 articles on Disneyland. So.
Right, in 10 minutes, pretty much. It felt that way. Yeah, my team is awesome. We are a team. It's not just my website. We're a big team, and we're Disney. Love the theme parks, and definitely subscribe if you want to get that information like straight to your inbox. You don't even have to look for it. So there's a little subscribe button inside themagic.net, and you will be first to know on all these things, because we are watching it like a hawk. So.
Follow them on Facebook and everything else as well.
Yeah, we are all over the place.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me.
It almost makes me want to go if it wasn't 1,000 degrees with 1,000% humidity.
Yo, thank you for taking
it's Florida. Wait for those overcast days. It'll be fine.
Yeah, thank you for taking one for the team, Emille, because there are a lot of people who are like, I am not going the first day. So thank you for taking one for the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
The other announcement is because of all the inconvenience, they've dropped the price in half, right? For the daily.
Oh, gosh. Did they? I don't know if I got that announcement yet.
Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. You guys have a great one.
Bye.
Flintstone Media has been the digital bedrock of several Florida brands and businesses. Serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house, work with a leader in Florida's podcasting industry and add a podcast to your brand's content offerings. From setup through recording and distribution, Jemmy will lend her experience producing over 500 episodes and make the process of creating your show simple and easy for you. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. That's flintstonemedia.com. So I've had so much fun over the last couple of episodes planning the second half of the show, which is what Jemmy usually did. And then she usually surprised me with all kinds of stuff. And I've just gotten a lot of revenge over the last couple of months. So I have more for you today. We're going to play a couple of quick games. And you all can play along at home. That's the way I designed it. Jemmy has not seen these yet, which always concerns her greatly. But they're very simple. And they kind of tell you some things that you could also be doing in Florida during the summer, so that you maybe wouldn't die of heat exhaustion. So here's the first game. Are you ready, Jemmy?
As ready as I'm going to be. Nervous, skeptical, and ready. Let's do this.
The first game I am calling, and I'm kind of playing off of one of the games that you play. It's is the following location Florida or not?
The classic Florida or not game.
So many people are now visiting, as we said, local attractions that they've never visited before. And one of the things that we have a lot of in Florida is state and national parks. And they have become hugely busy. I've been out to a couple of them, and there's a lot more people out there. And you could tell the ones that haven't ridden their bike in a long time.
They have extra inflamed butts. Their butts are on fire from all the pumping of the pedals.
They can't breathe. They're dying, and they're about a mile in. So it's been kind of a chuckle, actually. So I'm going to name you 3 state parks. You have to pick the one that is not real. Okay?
That's not real?
So not real.
Okay.
I made it up. All right? So how about Anastasia State Park? It's one of the most beautiful parks in the state with over 1,600 acres of unspoiled beaches, tidal marshes, maritime hammocks, and ancient sand dunes.
Who in the world says hammocks? Do you say hammocks in normal everyday life?
And it is a thing.
No, hammocks is a thing, but hammocks, I've never heard that word before.
Look it up. It's a thing. And it features tons of ospreys and eagles, and it's located up in the peninsula.
Okay. Anastasia, you said that was called?
Yes, and you're not allowed to Google it.
I'm not Googling anything, I promise.
Anastasia State Park. Number 2, Florida Caverns State Park. One of the few caves in Florida that you can tour. The limestone caves in the park have stalactites, stalagmites, and flowstones.
That has to be real because you would not have put a description together with either of those words.
Although, you forget, I used to be a spelunker. I've been caving many times.
That's true.
I know what stalactites and stalagmites are. Other activities and amenities at this park, Florida Caverns State Park, include camping, hiking, boating, horseback riding, and fishing. Number 3, the final one. So you have to pick which one is fake.
Okay.
The Lake of the Lakes State Park in the lake region of Central Florida. This park is home to 120 small lakes and ponds that are connected to each other through a series of rivers and tributaries. It is the longest interconnected waterway in Florida and is a dream for kayakers as no motorboats are allowed.
You said that was called the Lake of the Lakes?
The Lake of the Lakes.
I'm going to say the second one can't be real, only because I'm skeptical that there can be a limestone cave. I would think limestone anything would be full of water. It's underneath the water shelf, but that's just my guess. I don't know.
You're going with Florida Cavern State Park.
I'm attempting to go with a scientific explanation. So this is where you prove me wrong.
I saw you stretch that. You would be incorrect. Florida Cavern State Park does exist up in the Panhandle, more towards Georgia or Alabama. So it's up there in the hilly parts where you wouldn't drown if you went. So your thinking was right on. No, the Lake of the Lakes State Park is the one I made.
Lake of the Lakes. I should have known that the dork of the dorks would have come up with the Lake of the Lakes.
It does sound like a name you would hear here, doesn't it?
Like Land O'Lakes. Yeah, it totally does. You jerk.
All right, second game. Are you ready?
Yep.
This is going to make everybody hungry, and I apologize in advance. And there's no correct answer on this one. It's just which one do you want? Which would you pick? One of the biggest milkshakes in Florida. And there's multiple locations of this store. It's called At the Yard Milkshake Bar.
Ooh.
And there are a number of them in Florida. You'll find some of the biggest, most out-of-the-world milkshakes you've ever seen before, and they're served in heaping mason jars. Again, these are all real. You just have to pick which one you would want to do. They have the birthday cake milkshake. It's birthday batter ice cream in vanilla ice jar, coated with sprinkles, topped with whipped cream, extra sprinkles, and an entire cupcake.
Ooh.
Let me tell you one more. They have the mint green monster. It's a mint green green mint chip ice cream. It's hard to say.
The thing is, if you can pronounce it, apparently it's free.
I know. Get this. They dip the whole jar in green marshmallow, and they top it with whipped cream, crushed Oreos, chocolate, and marshmallow drizzle. And on top of that, they put an entire brownie.
Oh, my good God. This is like tooth rot in a jar.
Every one of them is like this. They have one called the Serial Killer. I mean, it's just...
So, all right, you know what's funny? So up until you said the Serial Killer, I was thinking, okay, these guys have a whole bar of choices when it comes to milkshakes. They need to get their naming conventions. They need to take a feather out of the cap of Beauty and the Beef with their the way that they named their drinks. Remember, like, they had the most ridiculous drink and cocktail names.
Did.
So, but that was great. That was called what? Serial Killer, you said?
They have Birthday Cake, the Serial Killer. They also have Monkey Meets the Moose.
Oh, okay. All right. They're doing great. I love it. Monkey Meets the Moose.
By the way, I looked at these and just died. They were on Shark Tank, actually, and got some money, apparently. So They have 7 locations in Florida. You can look it up. Just look for the Yard Milkshake Bar.
The Yard Milkshake Bar. If I pull up to the yard and just lean my head out the window with my mouth open, can I just put it under a spigot and then just like
shove it in on your way by?
Amazing.
All right. Or you could choose a night stay in the only candy-themed mansion in Florida. It's 8,000 square foot mansion.
Is it in Orlando?
Yes.
I know this place.
Have you been there?
No, but I almost went there. I do. I heard about it years ago. Let's just say my son's father, he had some friends that were planning a trip. I was offered the chance to go. I did not take the opportunity, but I heard about this place. It looked amazing. Carry on.
Yeah, 52 people can stay there. It's kind of like a bed and breakfast. It has the world's only ice cream cone shaped swimming pool with a cherry on top hot tub. They have individual rooms that are all themed. They have Candyland, they have an M&M room, a Milky Way room, and on and on and on and on. They also have a 1,200 foot ice cream social nightclub. 1,200 square foot nightclub. It's all about ice cream. They have video games, a human Candyland chessboard, all kinds of
All right,
stuff.
so my question is, can I move in permanently or will they eventually kick me out? That's I may not be able to pay rent, but I would be happy to move in permanently.
I didn't look at what the rates were. They can't be cheap, I don't think.
It sounds amazing.
All right, the last choice that you have, of the one you have to pick one, is you can visit the Bubble Room. It's on Captiva Island off of Fort Myers. I don't know how we missed this. It began as a tiny restaurant with a display of the owner's vintage toy collection. The collection grew, the restaurant grew, they started more theme rooms, and now it's famous for its wild decor and great food. It's known for its scrumptious desserts. Everything made at an on-site bakery, and they have some of the most famous cakes in Florida. Let me give you an example. They have the French chocolate torte cake, which is 3 layers of moist dark chocolate cake, 2 layers of fresh whipped cream, chocolate shavings polka dotted with strawberries topped with more whipped cream, and then finished with a chocolate dipped strawberry. And it's about the size of a pancake stack.
Wow.
It's huge.
How did you make it through that description without your mouth filling it full of
I haven't had chocolate cake in so long. How about Jamaican rum cake? Buttery pound cake soaked in dark Jamaican rum with a chocolate mousse center and pecan rum glaze.
Wow. That's all I have to say. Wow.
So if you could do any of those 3 today, and I'll review, you can do the biggest milkshake, you can do the candy theme night, or the bubble room.
So I have to go with the candy theme night because I feel like I get the stuff I get at the other 2, but I also get to swim in an ice cream shaped swimming pool. Like that sounds amazing. Like I'd get lost in it. I'd never come back. Change my address too.
Keep this in mind for one of JoJo's birthdays. I think he would love that.
Oh my god! I'd never see him again. But yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, all that you'd see him again.
Oh my goodness!
All right, this is a quick, simple, easy one. Which of these towns is not a real town in Florida?
Oh, so this third game.
So
okay,
one of these. Yep, third game, last one. Which of these towns is not a real town in Florida? And I'm just going to give you the names of the towns.
Oh boy.
Two egg, like 2 TWOEGG, 2 egg.
Isn't that the name of like
Couch.
a diner or something? I could have swore that was the name of the diner.
Couch, like the thing you sit on.
Couch. Really?
Mustard Grove,
okay.
Mayo. So we got 2 egg, couch, Mustard Grove, mayo,
A lot of food, a food theme.
And Sop Choppy. Sop Choppy. S-O-P Choppy. Sop Choppy.
Is it CHOPPY?
COPCHOPPY. Sop Choppy. So now, which one of these? Actually, 4 of these are actual towns in Florida.
Say them again one more time.
2 egg, couch, Mustard Grove, mayo, or Sop Choppy.
Gosh, I think everything is real except for maybe. I don't know. I think they're all real. They all could be real. I'm just going to go with couch. I'd rather sit on it than visit it. Just say couch.
And you would be incorrect. Couch is actually a town in Florida. It's Mustard Grove.
See, and I made that sounded the most normal.
Like the most normal.
I really hate you. It sounded by far the most normal.
We were kind of on a condiment theme, so that's why I made Mustard Grove. Mayo is actually a town, and Sop Choppy is actually a town, and 2 egg is actually a town.
See, I'm pretty sure I've seen 2 egg on a map randomly one day, so that's why I didn't pick 2 egg. But the other ones, yeah. And Sop Choppy is just too weird for you to have come up on your own with.
Anyway, I hope you all had fun playing along with those 3. I had fun putting them together.
Oh my goodness, Glenn. Crazy.
Well, that's it for today's show. We really appreciate you joining us during this time. Eventually, Jemmy and I will actually get out and do things again one of these days.
Eventually. So, yeah, we're just going to keep putting out all of our shows. And you can find them at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com. All kinds of interesting, cool, fun stuff, as always. We're trying to keep everybody on top of everything. Things are changing so much right now with everything going on in the world. So go to FloridaPodcastNetwork.com to hear our latest, and then you can chat about it with us at FPN Insiders on Facebook. It's a closed Facebook group, so we can make extra friends during coronavirus quarantine as you're dodging protests or in between protests or whatever's going on in your own world. Go to FloridaPodcastNetwork.com, check out our shows and our latest coverage of everything, and then hang out with us on Facebook at FPN Insiders.
And if you know of any cool things that you'd like us to talk about, maybe you actually got out and did something. You could be a roving reporter just like Emille and give us a report on what you went out and did and what that was like. And, we can all dream you. So if you did do something fun, just contact Jemmy at JAIME at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com.
Yeah, Emille took one for the team. So why not you? If you go out any place, let us know about it. We'd be more than happy to hear about it. It'd be a lot of fun. And you can tell us via email, or you can also tell us via social media. You can look up the show. Just search for Find FL Podcast.
Well, Jemmy, here's to your next Florida adventure. And for all of you out there who actually get to leave the house, we want to hear from you. Or you can just stay home and you can have your adventure in the comfort of your living room.
Or join Emille on her website and go take out some from virtual tours or whatever she's got going on as they cover all the latest things with travel and adventures that they have going on with her team over there. But
InsideTheMagic.net is where you can find them. Thanks, everybody.